And good afternoon. I'm Mary McCormick, the Executive Director of the Rotary Club of Milwaukee, and welcome to the snack program that the club offers every Thursday at noon. We call it a snack because there's a little bit less to it than our Tuesday program. You'll find it to be a little less formal. We don't have a Pledge of Allegiance, an invocation, or club business, but you can still really count on the high quality programming that you're used to from our Rotary Club. And it usually lasts about 30 minutes. And then for the last 10 minutes or so, we'll take some Q&A. Typically, we feature a member of Rotary or a Rotary connected project or organization with ideas that are really pertinent to how we're living today. And today, our fellow Rotarian, Megan Holbrook, will interview fellow Rotarian, Jason Rae. And before I turn to Megan and Jason, though, I want to invite you to turn in next Thursday to learn about the new Black Theater Festival. The Rotary Club of Milwaukee Community Trust is really very proud to sponsor this inaugural event. And if you tune in, you will hear the founders, Brent Hazelwood and Sherry Williams-Pennell, really talk about how they brought this festival from idea to fruition in a pretty short period of time and on a pretty short budget. I think you will be entertained and enlightened if you're able to join us next Thursday. So I hope you can. And now I'm going to introduce Megan, who will then introduce Jason. Megan has been a Rotarian since 2001. She's a digital strategist and a community activist. She's the co-founder of Milwaukee Democratic Action, a grassroots organizing group focused on turning out the vote in the downtown area. She was elected as a Biden delegate to the Democratic National Convention this past May. So Megan, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Great, thank you, Mary. We're so pleased to have Rotarian Jason Rae join us today for this snack program. Jason was elected Secretary of the Democratic National Committee in February 2017. Prior to that, he served as one of Wisconsin National Committee members, first elected in 2004 when he was just 17 years old. He lives in Glendale, and he serves as the President and CEO of the Wisconsin LGBT Chamber. Jason, thank you. We really are excited to have you come talk about this and give us your firsthand knowledge. Here's my first question. The big news yesterday was that VP Biden won't be coming to Milwaukee to give his acceptance speech. Can you tell us a little bit about the issues and discussion that led to this decision?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. You know, from the very beginning of this pandemic, the Democratic National Convention Committee and Vice President Biden, you know, have really tried to consistently model leadership in putting the health and safety first of all convention participants. So several weeks ago, we notified convention delegates that they shouldn't plan to attend in person. We really wanted to make sure we can conduct party business safely, but at the front and center was the health and well-being of all convention participants, those who have to organize and plan, as well as the people here in Milwaukee, the hotel staff, the people working in the Wisconsin Center. You know, so the decision really was consistent with that, and you know, in order to protect the community here in Milwaukee, we followed the advice of public health experts. The convention hired 2 epidemiologists to really consult with us on this process, and we not only encouraged delegates not to participate, but speakers to not travel as well. And you know, really in accordance with that, Vice President Biden made the decision not to travel to Milwaukee, and instead will address the nation from Delaware instead. Well, I know it's not the convention many of us would have wanted or talked about for years. I think, you know, I'm proud to be a part of a party that really is trying to put health and safety front and center. And that's what this decision did. And it was always with a focus on how do we make sure we are protecting our home community here.
Great, thank you. As a delegate, I was very excited to be part of the convention, but as it turns out, I'm still really waiting to hear more about what my participation will be. I turned in my ballot that asked me who I was voting for, who whether I supported the platform and whether I supported a specific resolution. It was one page. So as a delegate, I guess I'm waiting to hear more about what will happen. And besides online voting, how else will delegates be involved in the convention?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, the official convention business, we made sure that all convention delegates like yourself were able to participate remotely. So ballots went out on Monday of this week and have until August 15th to vote on the three pieces of party business that will come before the convention, that being the nomination of the presidential nomination, adoption of the party platform, and a resolution about party unity. So those three items are out and will be voted upon and are being voted upon right now. And that's really the main piece of delegate business. But what I'm really excited about with this convention is that not only will delegates, but people across the country and across the world will get to participate in ways that previously, if they weren't local to that host city or weren't traveling, weren't able to. So that includes during the day on Monday through Thursday of convention week, all of the DNC's caucuses and councils will be meeting. So the LGBTQ caucus, the youth council, women's caucus, the black caucus, etc., all have meetings scheduled. So those will be engagement opportunities for delegates to tune in during the day and participate, hear from speakers, hear from community leaders on different issues, and really come together to unite as a party. So that's one way. State parties across the country as well are working right now on ways to engage their state's delegates. And I know in Wisconsin, we're working hard to find opportunities of engagement. One of the pieces that always happens during a national convention is a delegation breakfast. It'd be where you pick up your credentials for the day, where you'd pick up your credentials, but then you'd also hear from speakers who'd come in. So the state party is working on actually continuing those delegate breakfasts, although they'll be virtual this year, but really working to provide those opportunities. And I know specifically in Wisconsin, there's going to be a real emphasis to make sure that delegates do feel included in that process. And a lot of it is still in development. I will say it's changing each and every day as we continue to make decisions and as we get closer, but we are trying to find those meaningful opportunities to let delegates feel a part of the convention, but also to open it up to others who wouldn't get a chance normally to participate. So I'm really excited about that.
Great. So what can you tell us about how a virtual convention works? What can viewers watching on TV expect each night?
It's a great question. So, programming details are still being finalized, but, we are anticipating, each night to hear from really exciting speakers. I know on Thursday night, we'll hear from the vice president. On Wednesday night, we'll hear from his nominee for vice president. It'll be an evening every night, 4 nights of programming from 8 to 10 p.m. Central will be the main kind of programming. It will include some live broadcasts, but also some other content originating from cities, landmarks across the country. We'll have the roll call on Tuesday. So I think what you'll really see during that are some really exciting speeches. I know we'll hear from some of our party leaders, but I know there's also a real emphasis on how do we hear from everyday people about how the current administration has impacted them and how Vice President Biden will help them as we continue to move forward. So I'm excited for those programming. It's not the 7 hours that you normally would get from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. on the convention floor. So it'll be a little tighter that way, but really is going to make sure to hear from inspiring speakers who are going to help unite the nation around Joe Biden's vision for America.
Great. So when do you think the VP will be announced? The VP pick will be announced.
My guess is at some point next week. When you kind of look back historically, Vice President Biden, when he was announced as Barack Obama's running mate, I think that came the Saturday or Sunday of convention week. I remember being in Denver already for the 2008 convention when that announcement came. When Hillary Clinton picked Tim Kaine in 2016, I think that was the Friday evening before the convention started in Philadelphia. So my guess is sometime later next week, we will hear the vice president make his decision. I know I'm anxiously awaiting that. I know a lot of people are, and it's an ongoing discussion, this deep stakes, but regardless of who it is, I know that we as a party are going to come together around around her and make sure that we are united moving forward.
Great. Do you think that Milwaukee might be considered for the next convention in 2024, given the circumstances?
That's a great question. And it's one that I think will be up to city and civic leaders if they decide to put forward, a bid process to host that. I think, it is a competitive process. It is one that requires resources, requires a commitment from stakeholders at every level. So I think it will be one where when this convention is done, and I know as the mayor said the other day in a press conference, this is a personal and professional disappointment for him, but that right now he's got to focus on, this pandemic and the health and safety of the people in Milwaukee. So I think it's certainly something that is on the table if the community comes together and decides to put a bid forward. I'm disappointed that more folks won't get an opportunity to come and see Milwaukee, but I'm hopeful at the end of the day that even though this convention may not be happening the way we all thought and wanted, that we're still finding ways throughout the program to highlight Milwaukee. I know I serve on the board of Visit Milwaukee, and they are looking at ways to really help continue to promote the city to those that might have attended. I know that will be part of the convention programming to make sure that Milwaukee is highlighted during this so that people do get a chance to understand a little bit more about how great our city is. So whether or not 2024 happens, I do know that just the announcement alone of Milwaukee as the host city really did help spark interest from other organizations across the country who thought, well, if Milwaukee can host this, they can certainly host our event as well. So I know that we will start seeing more and more conventions and events coming to town of different scale, but 2024 is so far away. I can't make that prediction right now. I don't think I would have predicted what 2020 would have looked like. So I don't want to predict 4 years from now.
Great, thank you. So now we're going to open it up to others on the call. And if you have questions for Jason about the convention or anything else political, please chime in.
And I think that there's enough people on the call here that we can have an interesting conversation, but that you don't have to use the chat. If you want to just speak up and ask a question, that should work pretty well. But if you prefer to put something in the chat, I will keep my eye on that. So does anybody have a question for Megan or for Jason?
Sure, Mark here. I'll jump out. Hey, Jason, thanks for doing this. Megan as well. Fascinating stuff, if you like politics, and as we all do. Question for you, Jason, about not having what you'll do without having the kind of the ripple effect the convention creates amongst delegates from all over the country when they come here, come to a convention. Obviously, they get charged up, they get meeting, networking, everyone goes off, and then they surge toward November. Here, you've got people in little boxes all talking to each other. Can you talk a little bit about that challenge and what the party is doing on the national scale, and then how they're working with, say, the Wisconsin Democratic Party to get folks charged up and getting out there after the convention?
Sure, absolutely. I know that was one of the things, from the outset, that was something that was top of mind. Of conventions are that rallying opportunity. It's the time to come together, to unite, but then to head out. You always want that kind of convention bump they talk about afterwards. So we're looking at trying to find ways to, kind of as we mentioned earlier, to still engage the delegates so that they feel a part of it. So I think there'll be some special gifts being sent around to delegates at some point so they can feel as though they were part of it. I think we're really working hard on how digitally to make it appealing and interesting for folks who may be, at home. I think one of the things that is also going to be important is it's going to be an organizing vehicle. So this is actually providing us a way to engage individuals who previously might not have tuned in. So we're really making it a concerted effort to talk about tuning in, to get people to sign up, people who may not have, attended a convention, and using that as organizing tools. So I know the state party is really focused on how do we take the convention attendees, or those who would have been attendees, and turn them into our field organizers out there. How do we get them to start in a digital program? How do we start talking around engaging voters post-convention. So it'll be different than it has before, but there really is an eye to organizing. And I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that one of the campaign manager for Joe Biden is a field organizer by trade. Jen O'Malley Dillon, got her start that way. And the campaign has always had this eye towards grassroots activation. And while it may not have the kind of the energy that you normally have, I think we're trying to find ways to still harness that and get people to feel excited about the process and to feel excited coming out of it, to get them to take action. But at the end of the day, I also look at it and say, in presidential politics, we often say the campaign really gets going after Labor Day. So I think we'll see a big push again post Labor Day to keep moving. We're in the midst of summer right now, and I think we will continue to find ways to try to excite folks moving forward.
Is this just one quick follow-up? Is this, do you think, putting more pressure to make the National Democratic Party more digitally astute and sort of pushing forward, use of database technology, all kinds of things that I know campaigns often struggle to do? Will this kind of put extra emphasis on this going toward November?
Yeah, and it will, and I think it's something that we have been doing. Once when I got elected in February of 2017, was the same time Chair Perez got elected, and that was a real emphasis coming in. It was really rebuilding. We knew that the Republicans were ahead of us in the data infrastructure game, so a lot of time and effort was spent on working with state parties around the voter file and voter engagement and how we can do some of the advancements that we had seen from the RNC. So we've really put an emphasis on that. We've got a top-notch mobilization team with the chief mobilization officer at the DNC really focused on data. So we have been really building. I think we tested a lot of things in 2018 to see what worked and have been using that since. And I'm really excited for how we've been able to engage that way. And we're still trying new things. There was, it's not the same when you can go door to door and knock on doors, but we're getting a really great response from our texting program, from phone calls and things. Just as a side note with that, one of the things I heard from one of the campaign staff is, they get a really great response. People respond to their text messages. When people get a text message, they actually do often reply to that. If somebody comes and knocks at your door, 50-50 shot, somebody might actually answer the door there. So we are seeing engagement in that kind of digital space.
Yeah, great.
Christine, it looked like you had your hand up.
I do. Jason, to somebody my age, you are really young. and you have been involved in Democratic Party politics at a pretty high level for a long time. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you got involved? And frankly, are you one of an army of young people, or are you unusual in the decision-making part of the organization?
Yeah, I first got involved many years ago. Now, when originally from Rice Lake, Wisconsin, and my former state representative said, "Hey, I want you to come to a meeting about Tom Barrett's campaign for governor in 2002 during the primary." So went and got involved, and then actually spent part of my junior year of high school in Washington, D.C. as a U.S. Senate page for Herb Kohl. And came back from that experience saying, well, I need to find a way to continue to be involved in politics. So I took Wisconsin elects 2 men and 2 women to serve on the DNC every 4 years for a 4-year term. And back in 2004, I wanted to actually be a delegate to the national convention in Boston, but they told me that I was too young. The state party rules said you had to be 18 to be a convention delegate. And I didn't turn 18 until 3 weeks after the election. So they turned me down and said, but you should come to our state party convention anyway. You can participate that way. And I learned that they were electing national committee members, and I read the bylaws and rules and didn't actually see an age requirement for the national committee. So I called them on the filing deadline and said, hey, I'm running. I've just sent in my paperwork. And they're like, okay. But you're up against then Governor Doyle's kind of 2 people that he preferred. One was the president of the state's firefighter union, and the other was a former state legislator. I didn't think I was going to win, I wanted to make a statement about young people being involved in the party and needing to make sure that young people were included. I went to the state convention, ended up stood at the door and shook every hand all night long. I hand painted signs that said "A ray of hope for the future," and ended up coming in first in that race. When I took office at the time, the DNC has about 448 committee members. And we define youth as under 36. And of the 448, there were 6 individuals under 36 on the DNC. And 4 of those were there automatically because they were president of College Democrats of America or Young Democrats of America. So I helped found the DNC's Youth Council to really help find ways in the party leadership from local to national level to get more young people involved. We've increased that now to almost, I think, 35 young people on the DNC. We work to get young people elected as delegates to the national convention. So I'm one of many. I'm honored to serve as our youngest party officer currently, and get to help make sure that we are building paths for those coming behind us to be involved and to lift up their voices in the process.
Cool. Thanks.
Steve, you want to ask your question?
Yes, thanks, Megan. So Jason, I know it's not your direct area, but what is the security profile for this reduced convention, and are they expecting the same prohibited areas and the same potential demonstrations, or has it gone way down because of the changes?
My guess, and I have not been in those conversations since yesterday's announcement when things kind of shifted. My guess is the security footprint will be a little lessened when you don't have the vice president coming to town. You're not going to have that same level of Secret Service protection things. There will be some level of security, of course. I'll be interested to see on the protest side. I don't know if people aren't coming to the convention, what you're protesting or who you're protesting during it. So I'll be interested to see what that actually looks like. But it is to be determined. It's one of those we're still trying to figure it all out as we go. The thing I've learned with 2020 in this convention is that it is you take each day as it comes and deal with the problems of that day.
Jason, I have a question in the chat from Jenny Stefanich, who's the CEO at Progressive Community Health Center. And Jenny says that Progressive Community Health Center has made Election Day a holiday, and they're encouraging their staff both to vote, but also to help others vote. Are there going to be particular efforts that she can refer her employees to help get out the vote?
Absolutely. There are both, first, thank you for making that a holiday. I wish we had it as a federal holiday, and I think it should be. There are definitely ways both partisan side, but also on the C3 side. So Wisconsin Voices, which brings together a number of C3 nonprofit organizations, has a major get out the vote effort that is nonpartisan and non-candidate specific, but really engaged that way. So Wisconsin Voices is where I would turn to there, and then the party will also have their ways. I also anticipate many municipalities will need extra assistance when it comes to poll workers, particularly the city of Milwaukee in November. And obviously we want people to do it if they feel comfortable and safe to participate, wearing their PPE and things like that. But we definitely will need people signing up to be poll workers for that day to make sure that people don't get turned away by long lines or feel like they can't participate because it's taking too long, or that we have to reduce the number of polling locations or anything like that. So those would be the kind of 2 avenues that I would turn to first.
Thank you. Any more questions from our gallery here?
I did have one more question for you, Jason. What exactly is going to happen at the Wisconsin Center? I forget the name of the actual location. What are people gathering there for, even at the reduced numbers?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I don't know that there will be as much gathering there as much as an operations center, really making sure that the convention is going off and all the technical pieces and things, because there will be, live elements during it. I think it will be much more of almost a little boiler room or war room, et cetera, kind of happening there is my anticipation at the moment.
Good to know. Thanks.
Jason, one more thing about voting. Is the party, as far as you can see or been involved in, thinking about how to deal with the fact that come November 3rd and November 4th and November 5th, we probably won't have results from the voting. And it's going to take a long time with all the mail-in voting. What we saw, New York just recently finished counting votes from a couple months ago or something. So obviously, and I think going back in history, I was reading about how it used to take a really long time for us to find out who won for president. And now we got used to getting the results by, 10 o'clock Eastern time. So that's going to be different. Is the party doing some messaging or sort of thinking about how to get the word out to say, no, it's not going to be this way?
Yeah, I've consistently heard some leaders of the party talking about election month, not election day, and talking about the time. Because, we saw that in 2018 as well with California. A number of races in California weren't called until several weeks after the election. So I think there has been this idea of just talking around, it is no longer election day, but it's an election season almost, because voting in many places will start soon. I mean, you'll be able to request absentee ballots soon and be able to cast those in some places in September and October. So we're really kind of talking around, doing it early, but knowing that it is not defined anymore as that one singular day, but really an election season and period for folks, and trying to just shift that mindset, which we know that, we and those who are active and engaged, get excited about this. And there are a lot of people who won't tune in until late October and decide, but trying to make sure that folks aren't anticipating results on election night anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I guess my first experience with mail-in voting was, maybe 6 years ago when my daughter and her family moved to Oregon, and I was with my grandson in the library, and there were just all kinds of information, about candidates on the ballot, and it was, very nonpartisan. There were lots of profiles, and that was when I first learned that Oregon does all of its voting by mail.
Right.
And it just seemed like to be a very organized and thoughtful process and pretty easy. And I thought, oh, why don't we do more of this? But I guess we'll find out. Good.
Yeah.
Well, any more questions? Just about 12:30. So we really do appreciate the fact that you took the time to be with us, Megan and Jason, and we'll have to see what we learn in our virtual convention next week, right? 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now, yeah.
2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now, right?
Yeah.
Time kind of runs together these days, but thank you. And if anybody has another question, please jump in. Otherwise, I think we will sign off.
This has been great. Really, really enjoyed it. Thanks for the view inside.
Thank you,
Thanks for having
Jason.
me.
Thank you.